Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 737. Now, in today's episode, we're talking about how to speak with confidence. So I want you to be able to discover how to do that. And it can be in any different situation. Maybe you're in university, maybe you're at work, maybe it's in relationships, socializing. Whatever it is for you, you can utilize these skills to either go from not being that confident at speaking to being very confident. And on top of that, maybe you're a good communicator, but you want to refine things and get things even better. Now, the next episode I'll be recording will actually be a hypnosis session around this. So that's going to be important. I want you to have the conscious upgrade and also the unconscious upgrade. And that means you really get that integration, okay? That's where we're going to get the deeper alignment. It's not about just the unconscious transformation. Mastery is being conscious of what you're doing in such a way that you can get your unconscious mind on your side at any time and any moment to do what has to be done to experience the life the way that you would like it to be. Now, this is being broadcasted on YouTube. That was a high-pitched YouTube there, wasn't it? youtube.com/Joseph Clough. So if you ever feel the want or desire to join us live, you can do at youtube.com/Joseph Clough. CLOUGH. But if we get back to today's subject, I want you to know that for the first part of my life, the first 18 years, and even beyond that actually, I used to be a bad public speaker. Well, but not bad, but I used to experience worries, anxieties. I used to experience the blushing and the shaky voice, the attention all on me, which would be really debilitating if you're trying to have a conversation. And that could be in a one-to-one situation when there was someone of authority, or I at least perceived authority, where I felt like not in the position to be able to speak congruently or confidently. But it also meant for me in group situations, that would be horrible. Now I was honestly fine with my friends. I felt good there, but in situations which were different or people I did not know, it used to cause a lot of anxiety for me. And of course, when you feel anxiety, you create all the images in your mind of what could happen. You're kind of saying, look, I don't want to have that broken voice. I don't want to have that anxiety. I don't want to have that worry. And you're summoning it to the surface by speaking about it within your mind, or at very least putting your attention upon the things you don't want to happen. And it becomes a vicious cycle. You worry about getting anxious, and therefore you get anxious. You think about not wanting this to happen, and then your brain goes there. It's like, don't think of the word tree. Well, don't think of a blue tree. Immediately, you've got to think of the blue tree to be able to think of what not is the blue tree. So, realize that I've been there. But I've also overcame it to the point where I can do these live streams, although they're not in person, but I do trainings and events. I'm going out to Nashville in next month, I believe, and there's going to be like 200 people there, I'm sure, and I'll be speaking on stage, and I will thrive in that moment. I will love every moment that I'm speaking, and I like to think I'm a good speaker. You know, they hire me to go there, and they've hired me 6 times last 6 years. So I'm conscious and competent enough to know that I can do public speaking despite also being an introvert. So even if you're an introvert, even if that's not your place, realize that you can overcome this. Now, the first thing that I want you to get into your mind is that when we're thinking about speaking, whether it be socializing, whether it be public speaking, whether it be in meetings, you are becoming hyperly or hyper aware or sensory aware of your moment, the experience that you're in. You're like so consciously aware of the words that you're saying, how your body feels, what people or what you perceive that people are thinking of you, that it takes you out of the moment. Because if we think of the contrast, when you think of the things that you do without anyone there, or the situations where there are people there and you're just comfortable, maybe it's friends or family, you are not focusing about the experience in the environment or the outcome. You are living in the moment. You're not self-conscious of your experience. You are just being a part of the experience. So we need to fundamentally know the differences between who we are at the present when we're speaking, and also the differences as to where we are absolutely fine, because ultimately you have the strategy that works. Isn't that good? Isn't that great that you actually have the strategies within you already that are successful? And I say that for everyone with every issue, because you don't live within the issue all the time. Even when you're asleep, when you wake up in the morning, or when you're engaged in something, the issues aren't always there. So if you do anything with a sense of ease or confidence and competence, it will mean that you've actually got a proven strategy of doing something the way that you would like to, but unfortunately you're just not applying it because you're applying a strategy of being overly sensory aware of your experience or the outcome. So that's good news, so remember that. And also, the way that I learned to speak, and like I said, my voice used to break and I wasn't as congruent. Sometimes you may notice I don't do the ums and ahs. I probably will now, being consciously aware of them. But I've trained myself to be able to hopefully speak consciously and unconsciously to those that I speak with. So when we do what we do, you've got to recognize that that is simply a strategy. That's all it is. Public speaking, speaking to anyone, is a strategy that you can apply within you, and there's going to be different kind of steps that we can apply to make this happen. But recognize you have the strategy. You've got it in there. Now notice what is present. Your job should be to recognize what is present when you're doing something confidently, when you're lost in the moment, when you're not being sensory aware of everything, and notice the qualities that you have. Because that could be what we really need in this situation, right? So the more you go on this discovery of how people speak or how you do things well, you are able to apply it into any situation. Yes, you may need some help. Maybe you need some hypnosis. Maybe you need some one-to-one. Like I said, I got a hypnosis session on the next episode on this subject. But speaking of considering different strategies, you know that that is true now. There are things that you do in your life that you are confident, or where you can speak confidently, where it be to your dog, your pet, your friend. There are situations where you do things fine. Then we've got to consider modeling other people. Think about it. How would you like to speak? Who would you know in the world that speaks in a way that you would like to have in your life, or the way that you would like to speak? Because the other thing you can do is go on a journey and discover how they do what they do. And if you cannot ask them, hallucinate it for a moment. Step inside. Imagine there is that person, and they're a great public speaker. Now, regardless of political ideas, or if we like or dislike, Obama was a great public speaker, great level of self-certainty, whether we like or dislike. I'm not talking about the politics, I'm talking about the public speaking. There was a level of that congruency and self-certainty. You can think of someone like that, someone in your life, someone, if they're in your life, can ask them how they do what they do. Break down that strategy so you can start to hallucinate it within yourself. And I'm not talking about fake it till you make it. I'm just saying discover a strategy of how you would like to speak by modeling someone who speaks the way you'd like to speak. And if you cannot ask them, imagine going into their eyes. Look through the eyes of that public speaker or a person who's very charismatic. Look through their eyes and just consider, hallucinate. How would that person be thinking? What would they be feeling? What kind of energy would they have in their body? What kind of tone would they have? What kind of images in their mind would they be creating? You see, once I discovered this for myself, there were some clear things that I had to do. When I had my speaking issue, I would be aware of everyone's energy on me, or what I perceived was their energy. Where it'd be just them looking at me, it was like this energy coming toward me. And that felt like it made me feel small. It made me feel self-conscious because all these eyes were looking at me. They all had their different thoughts, and I was thinking they're going to think that I'm going to trip up, or I'm going to now start to have that broken voice. And then when I began to learn how to speak, total different frame of energy. I do the exact opposite. Even now when I'm doing this live, or if I'm speaking in front of 200-300 people, I am projecting my energy out. That's all it is for me. I speak in a way that I want to radiate my energy out. And by radiate, I just imagine it in my mind that I'm pushing my energy out. I'm almost like, if you could imagine there were a big auditorium or conference kind of hall in those big crazy hotels, I'm imagining my energy wrapping around the room, right? Rather the energy coming toward me, I'm just projecting it out. It's almost like I've got these imaginary arms around the whole room, and they're in my domain. And not in a negative way, but I'm just living in this moment and I'm radiating out. So that was a flip of how I used to be, where the energy was coming just toward me. Now, the other thing that I'd like to do is, if I have some hesitation, I like to consciously practice my communication, right? I don't do it anymore because, like I said, I feel like I'm pretty good at speaking in public or with people. I'm very at ease. But let's just say it is something that you wanted to say to someone. Just take that sentence for a moment. And I would like you to go ahead and say it over again. Because most of the time when we say it, there's going to be this energy of a lack of congruency, for a better word for it. But there's going to be like this kind of shakiness to it. But if you start to practice, and I learned this when I was actually in one of my trainings, and it was like 3 questions. One was like, do you know when someone is doing something wrong? Okay, and then you would go like, yes. Do you know how to make the person do something better? Like, do you know how to do it? And you would go, well, yes. And then the third question would be, are you able to tell the person how to do it? And in that moment, most people go, yes. Like there's that hesitation there. Well, you've got to practice going through that third one and just go, yes. Yes, I can. 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 You see, the more that you begin to say it with congruency, even if you're not saying it within like the vicinity of the person, you are pre-teaching your unconscious mind to go through that hesitation. In the beginning, it'd be like, yes, I can, or no. But ultimately, you get to the point and go, yes, I can. Yes, I can. So you've got to practice having the energy behind the words. You see, when I teach people to do what I do for a living, in other words, hypnosis, coaching, or any other processes that I teach, the magic set of words that I always say to any one of my students is, say it the way you want them to feel. Okay? Now think about it. If I'm doing hypnosis, I'm not going to go deeper, go deeper into trance. I'm going to go, so go ahead and go deeper into trance. Like I'm trying to emphasize certain words with a certain level of tone or energy to evoke a response. So consider, what are you saying? And what feeling would you like to create? Now, to me, that's all about being in rapport with someone. You see, 93% of all communication is going to be unconscious. Only 7% is actually the words that we say, right? You could say the set of words that you would like to say, but if it's charged with anxiety, worries, and fears, if your posture, in other words, your physiology is kind of shrunk down and you're like kind of shaking, and you're not going to be able to say it the way you want to. Your tone's not going to be living up to the words. That's why I always teach about this 93% of communication. You need to get your unconscious mind on your side to realize that tonality is very, very important. Sometimes I overemphasize things for a reason. Sometimes I'll say things in a way that you won't get because I want your unconscious mind to get it. There are different ways of communicating, and also notice posture. Like if you change your posture and you say something, then you're going to say it differently, right? Same words, you're going to say it differently. For example, imagine you being, say, shy. What is your posture like? Right? When you're about to talk to someone, even if you're anxious, what's your posture like? Is it kind of tight? Do you feel loose? Or is it kind of tight? Are you shaky? What is it like? Now, in that moment, imagine in your mind you put a cape, like a superhero cape. What does that do to your physiology automatically? It brings your shoulders back. Now, you could imagine yourself or pretend you were actually having like a superhero cape going into that meeting or going into that conversation, and you're tricking your unconscious mind to be able to change your neurology, your physiology. So it's important that we do so. The way your posture is will change your communication. So if we have a bit of a recap of what I've been trying to say, because we've been saying different things. The first thing is to recognize that you actually have perfectly working strategies in different situations, just not where you want it. So go on a journey of discovery of what is the strategy that you do well. Is it speaking to your cat or your dog? Is it speaking to a friend or a family member, talking to your child, your niece or nephew, where you feel confident? Because you have the ability to do that. Notice the difference that makes the difference for you. Secondly, we talked about them go on a journey of modeling other people. How would you like to speak? Is there anyone that you'd like to speak like? Whether you know them in person, maybe there's someone in the office or a customer or someone in your life who speaks very charismatically, then you can ask them. Or at least, even if you don't know them, imagine looking through the eyes of that person. What would they be thinking, feeling? What would they be considering? Will there be any spaces? Sometimes they may just enjoy the space between sentences, because they can hold that space, right? You see, within the space, I think there's a lot of information. So in fact, speaking about that, when I do my talks, I usually have a 5 to 10 second pause. So I'm just on stage and I'm being aware of everyone. I'm looking around. I'm gauging my energy. I'm radiating it out, like I said. I'm just trying to enjoy where the things I used to be nervous. Because you'd think being in front of everyone and saying nothing would be actually more terrifying than saying something, because you can't occupy yourself by speaking. So I put myself in situations where I could just be in that moment, say nothing, and get comfortable being uncomfortable. And then you recognize and realize that actually I have the ability. And like I said, for me personally, in the past, everyone's energy was on me. Now I radiate out. I say it the way that they would like to feel, or what I'd like them to feel, with the words that I use. And the other thing I want us to get into, and it's ultimately guided visual rehearsal. And there's power in rehearsal. You see, they've done so many studies on this. And there's almost, like I was saying, the rehearsal of saying the words with congruency, because that tone and that physiology, imagine that cape on your shoulders, there's power in that. You're tricking your unconscious mind to change your neurological state, either by saying the word with more congruency and certainty when you're out of that situation. You're telling your unconscious mind, this is how I speak. This is how I feel. So when it comes to the guided imagery aspect, what I like to do is imagine in my mind before the situation happens. So whether you're going into a meeting, you know you've got a meeting coming up. Whether you've got a public speaking, whether it be socializing, going to a bar, and you want to approach someone and feel confident doing so. Excuse me. So you want to begin to hallucinate and imagine in your mind before you go into that situation. And by doing so, you will not be doing this looking through your own eyes. We're going to do a dissociation. you're going to observe yourself speaking, or let's rewind it back, before you're in that situation. Because most of the time we live associated, right? We're looking through our own eyes, and guess where we feel emotions the most? Looking through our own eyes, right? We're highly associated. So if you're looking through your own eyes, you're going to feel anxiety if you're nervous about a situation. So what happens if we dissociate? We're now not feeling the feelings that we felt when we usually feel them. So you're observing yourself over there before the situation. In other words, before you'd start to feel anxious. Now, for some of you, it might be a couple of days before that public speaking, or it could be just the moment before. We do it in different ways of how long we get nervous for before going into the situation. But it's important to do so before the trigger of being anxious or worried. So you hallucinate in your mind before you feel anxious, and you hallucinate yourself exactly how you would like to be. You see your physiology with your shoulders back. You see how you are creating that energy in your mind as if you're projecting it out. You are hearing the words that you're saying with that tonality, saying it the way that you would like that person, those people, or that audience to feel in your presence. You even notice that you can be just quiet and silent and enjoy it. And you go through that, seeing it, hearing it, and feeling as if you're observing that you're pre-teaching your unconscious mind that this is the way. And then you go to the successful completion. So it could be leaving the room, it could be saying goodbye to people, it could be walking off the stage, whatever the context, situation you're in, the successful completion. And then you rewind it all the way back. And guess what you do next? You do it again. You imagine in your mind before the situation happened, before you get triggered into being unconfident when you're speaking. And then as you see that you going in that situation, saying it the way you want to say it, having that radiating energy wrapping around that room, that is your domain. You have the tone, you have the physiology. You say it the way you want them to feel, all the way to the successful completion of that situation. What do you do now? Well, you rewind it back and you repeat. Now this could take 5 times of doing so. It may take 100 times of doing so. It'll be less than that. But the more you begin to do this, you're telling and pre-teaching your unconscious mind, the thing which runs the anxiety, the part of you which runs the nerves, the blushing, the self-doubt. You're telling your unconscious mind that this is the strategy. And as I said, they've done so many studies on this, where even just going in their mind has produced a physiological change in the person's neurology by just practicing it. Go there in the mind, you will go there in the body. So, if you want to be able to speak more confidently, you have to start to model what you do successful. You begin to model what people are doing when they're doing good at public speaking, or just generally speaking with confidence, having that charisma. You want to be able to be more congruent in your voice. In other words, say the things you want to say without the breakiness, without the nerves, because no one's there. You're just saying what you want to say over and over again with certainty, and you're telling your unconscious mind, this is how I speak. Say it the way you want them to feel. Radiate it out. Do your best with that one. It's tricky, right? Because we're in our own mind, but you want to radiate your energy out. And realize as well, most of the time it's not even about you. You see, we're so busy thinking what people are thinking about us that we then get this hyper awareness. You've got to remember, no one actually really cares. And I say that, not that they don't care about you, but guess what? They're doing probably the exact same thing. They're more concerned about what they're going to say next, or their focus on what they've got to do that day, that they're not paying attention to you in that negative way. We just perceive it to be true because we are very subjective in our experience. In other words, you are the only real person in your experience. So you take everything unconsciously, personally. But most of the time, no one's even thinking about those thoughts of you messing up. most of the time, right? So once we get out our own way and start to have the tone, imagine that cape on your back. Every time I say it, my shoulders go back. With that posture, that tone, that physiology, and rehearsing the way that you would like to be, from the beginning to the successful completion. Observing that you, because it takes away the unconscious negative energy, and because you're doing the successful completion, you're doing it multiple times, you're getting your unconscious mind to know what to do, how to do it, and make it a reality. Now, is it going to be just like this? No. Everything takes time to get really good at it. You see, in the beginning, I wasn't that good at public speaking. If you ever go to my YouTube page, go to the videos, go by oldest, and look at my first videos. I don't speak anything like that I speak now. My voice has changed. My presentation has changed. The way that I try to evoke emotions, it is a skill that you've got to practice, just like walking. You weren't very good at walking in the beginning. You probably fell over 50 to 100 times. I don't have children, so I wouldn't know. But you're going to be falling down a lot before you actually mastered the art of just walking. So realize, just like walking, speaking with confidence is about practice. Over and over again, whether it be in person or whether it be in your mind. Like I said, if you go there in the mind, you go there in the body. Your neurology, your unconscious mind rarely can tell the difference between what it is imagined. And you know that because you watch a scary movie, a thriller, and you feel emotions and you know it's not real. Even if you read a book, can do the exact same thing. Watching a sport, you engage your physiology. You know you're not there, but you're all in that moment. Your body is always reacting to what is observing and also what you perceive to be true. So once you begin to perceive a new truth, a new way of being, and you start to replicate it, rehearse it over and over again, you're going to get your unconscious mind to make the change. Now, of course, there is one side part of this which I tend to speak about, but hopefully you know by now, so I'm not going to go really deeply into it. But know that your belief systems will dictate your capacity, in other words, the things that you do, your capacity of what you can do, which then shows up in your environment. For example, if you don't believe you're good enough, your capacity is shrunk, and therefore the behavior is not that good, the result not that good, and it goes back to the belief, that's why I'm not that good. So if that is the case, if you do have a limiting belief about yourself, your identity, that maybe you're not worthy, deserving, capable, good enough, all those kind of things, it could be different beliefs. That's what I personally work with the most, because that's my belief, and I like to solve things that I once experienced and let go of. But whatever it is, just make sure you conquer that as well. If it's a part of the experience, because most of the time beliefs will dictate that capacity and behaviors and results. So just get clear on that and really go all out in working on that, whatever the belief system is. Now, of course, if your belief system was like, I'm not good enough, worthy, or deserving, or you got the imposter syndrome, and you are someone who is highly driven and motivated and letting it go, doing whatever it takes, following my instructions in such a way that yields the result, and you are invested in making that change, then you can go ahead and book a call with us to apply for our customized program, which is josephclough.info/talk. You book a time on the calendar, then you fill out an application. It's pretty quick and easy. Give us a preparation as to how the call will go, and it'll be a one-to-one call with us, and it'll be getting clear of what you want to let go of, exactly what you want to achieve, what's getting in the way, and we'll come up with a game plan customized for you if we can solve it. If not, we'll point you off somewhere else. We only make sure we work with the people that we like, the people who are ready, and also that we can solve the issue. If not, we won't work with anyone because we're in it for the results. And I say we because it's my team to be able to support you each step away. It's fully customized to your unconscious needs. So that is josephclough.info/talk to book your call. Now, of course, to finish things off, I just want you to know that you have the ability to make this change. You've just got to practice what I've said. Yes, take time, practice over and over and over, start to feel comfortable. And for me, like I said, my one was really like radiating, saying it the way I want people to feel on the inside. For when I do that, I kind of fall into alignment and I allow my unconscious mind to support me. I allow it to kind of speak on my behalf almost. I get out my own way, observing myself do what I have to do. Even like right now, I'm getting my unconscious mind to support me with this. And if you don't know, I've got a very bad back at the moment. And in this moment, my back kind of feels good. It really does. Because I'm just getting out my own way, speaking what has to be done. Because we have a higher purpose. I believe it overrides many things. And I've been speaking on this live stream for 46 minutes right now, because we have the pre-show and the after show. And I'm allowing my unconscious mind to take control a little bit. That's mastery. You've got to be consciously aware what you're doing, of course. But ultimately, you have the ability to be able to regain everything you need to become the person you want. I believe you have it within you. Just got to do the work now. So apply what I've said, do what has to be done, and rise up to your desires, because I believe you deserve that great, wonderful life. So with that, my friends, I look forward to speaking to everyone on the live stream after this in a moment. But if you're listening to this on the app or the podcast, I wish you the greatest day. So many thanks and goodbye.